Good morning. This is your inspirational nurse Tiara coming to you live with another great video. Hello, all my YouTube family. Hey. I missed you guys so much. Happy holidays to everyone on this channel. And for those who are new, welcome back. This is your girl Tiara. I used to be an LPN for 4 years and traveled majority of my travel career due to my husband being in the service. And now I was RN for 2 years at a local hospital, and now I'm back to travel nursing. So today's video is how to negotiate your contract like a pro. Let's get straight into it. Everybody wants to learn the tricks and trade of how to get into the travel world and how to maintain your job as a travel nurse. When you're first negotiating your contract, you first need to decide whether you want to be a contracted nurse or a PRN nurse. Either route is good because the benefits of being a travel nurse outweighs your regular job at a regular hospital. Here's how. As a travel nurse, you can either go two ways. You can be a PRN traveler, which I have done for 4 years as an LPN, meaning I literally was traveling as a PRN, picking my own days that I wanted to work for the week, going into a facility that needed the most help every single day or whenever I felt like it. Made good money and was able to control the amount of hours I wanted to work per week. And because this place has so many travelers coming in, you will get tons of work. There will never be a time really where you are called off and they don't need anybody. And if they needed you in that particular floor, census were low, they would just put you in another location in the hospital, if you didn't mind. So you have the PRN route, which you set your rate on, kind of negotiate your rate on how much you want to make an hour. Just remember, as a PRN nurse, it's per day, per hour. You're not guaranteed, but the hours are definitely there. I have done it as an LPN nurse because I needed flexibility, so I could not do a contract. So let's talk about negotiating. How to negotiate like a pro. Once you find out whether the PRN route works for you, because maybe you have another job or you want to do travel nursing as a secondary PRN job, or you just need a minimum hours because maybe your spouse already makes enough money, so you really don't have to work so much. Shout out to you if you do not have to. Or you just prefer to have the freedom and flexibility of your schedule because you're a college student. Let's talk about contracts. So first off, before you even submit your contract to see if it will be accepted, you will get with a recruiter from a local travel agency or a travel company. And not all travel companies are equal. I'm going to say that again. Meaning some organizations are not running efficiently and organized. You only want to work with organizations that's been around for a while, has really good reviews, and is running organized and officially. Sometimes you can walk into a travel agent company's office and sense that maybe that's not going to work for you. I had that experience. I'm not afraid to say how I feel when I walk into an environment and I see papers everywhere all over the floor. I see cords, several phones. I've seen a young lady doing several jobs in one office. And I was like, I just hope that she's not also doing payroll and mess my money up. Like, as a traveler, you learn once you start as a travel nurse, working as one for a long time. So you want to get the best travel companies that has the most contracts at the bigger hospitals. You need to decide whether you're going to be a traveler that travels outside of the U.S., inside of the U.S., or local travel nurse. At my experience, I traveled locally within my state. I did go from different counties, and maybe the furthest I went was like 2 hours away from home and 2 hours back. Some travel agencies will actually cover your mileages, gas. It all depends. Some travel companies pay weekly, some pay per day. I rarely see any that pay every 2 weeks, but most of all of them pay every week or per day. So you need to know what you need from this travel company. What you want is going to be very important, because recruiters can influence you when you do not know better, especially if you're a new traveler coming in and you just see the rate and you like going crazy, like, oh my God, I'm gonna make that much. Do not get excited right away. Do your research. Do your research. Is this company a good company? You want to knock out that research. You want to decide, okay, if you decided I'm going to travel to North Carolina and take on a North Carolina travel contract. So once you know exactly where you want to go, do you need to decide whether, if you're on contract and you want the guaranteed 36 hours, where if maybe they call you off because of low census, you still get paid. So you want to make sure you have these several things in your contract when it's time to negotiate. The first thing you need to decide is your rate per hour. How much do you want? So for me, guys, actually, as an RN, this will be my first travel contract that I have done. I normally never really do contracts, but since my kids are older now, they're in school, I can do the 36 full hours. My husband works, but I can still do it. And I actually want to work closer to home this time. I mean, close to my house, down the street. So let's talk about it. So when negotiating your contract, you decide where you're at. Now that the hospital, you know exactly where you want to work within your county or your state, you move on to your rate. Let's do an example. Let's say your rate is, you want $65 an hour. That is your rate. You need to stick to that rate regardless of what your recruiter says or what your friends say. If that's what meet the needs for your income, your budget, for your bills, maybe a budget for vacation, or however you do deal with your budget and you budget things, you need to make sure that that amount fits your needs. Now, $65 an hour sounds great because, first of all, these regular jobs is not paying you that. It depends on your state. You're not going to get nothing near that. I was nothing near that. So any increase is good, but you want to stay stern. You do not want to get excited when you hear numbers flying at you and you're like, whoa, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Oh, yeah. Not me. So I negotiated my first contract as an RN. And let me tell you, it went very, very well. At first, I presented my offer as a PRN traveler to this company. The hospital that I chose, actually, the managers got my resume and wanted me full time. At that moment, I already made my decision on my previous job to move out of there. And I said, hey, I'm willing to work with you guys if you want me full time. There is going to be conditions to my full time out, me working full time. First of all, I'm a travel nurse. I want the lux of being a travel nurse. So there was a lot of conditions that I had. And if my recruiter kept pushing this contract thing, and I kept telling my recruiter, in order for me to take in a contract, you must meet my needs. Just always keep in mind, your recruiter works for you. You don't work for them. They work for you. So you need to sometimes remind them, because maybe some of them are new to the game and they don't know. But I know better. And I said my rate, as an example, was going to be $65 an hour. Another condition I will have is I want my hours to be guaranteed no matter what. So even if I get called off, they cannot. So once you go into contract with a hospital, they cannot break your contract. They have to give you that money. It is guaranteed, it's in writing. Another important aspect of a contract is your vacation days. You want to make sure you have all your vacation days that you usually take throughout the year. Some people vacation certain parts of the year, or maybe go home to see their parents, or whatever it is that you do, go to space. I don't know what you do, but you need to make sure those vacation days is on your contract in writing. And writing. So for me, guys, every December I take my kids somewhere for Christmas. That's been our new tradition. That's what the Flemings do. That was one of my conditions on my contract, that I must have these December dates off to take my kids away for a trip. Another time that I put down is my anniversary. Last year, my husband and I finally had the 14 years of marriage. We finally had a bomb vacation for our anniversary. I mean, we went all out. We were supposed to do that when we hit our 10-year mark, but life happens, and we're now enjoying our anniversaries now when they come up. My mother just got out the hospital, for those who didn't know. So I'm planning on going to go see my mother very soon. So those things need to be in writing. And don't matter what, because this whole time I was negotiating my salary, my vacation days, my conditions, my recruiter kept telling me, oh, I think that's too much vacation days, or, oh, I don't know if they're going to go with that rate. And she don't know she's talking to a pro negotiator. I do this all the time. And ever since we start talking, when I first gave her the rate that I wanted, I mean, I had a specific number. She told me, I don't think they're increasing the rates. They did offer me a really good rate, but I had a number in my mind. I'm a numbers person. A number in my mind that I wanted, that I felt would meet the needs of me being in a new house, 3 kids, So, she actually was like, from last week, was like, I don't know about that number, da-da-da-da-da. Always keep in mind the contract that you are putting in place is from you to your company. This contract is not between you and the hospital, and you and the hospital is going back and forth and saying, no, no, no. The company, you're doing the contract with this company that you're working under now as a travel nurse. See, I always thought when I do the contracts, it's going to be me and the hospital is going to be going back and forth. But no, it's you and your travel company. They have the money. They can negotiate. You have to tell your recruiter what you expect, and you have to be proactive. And do not change your tone. Don't get excited and like, oh, yes, oh, I would definitely take that. And don't negotiate. Always negotiate, because you have to, first of all, the main thing is to know your worth. As a nurse, we do so much work. And sometimes I wish I had a camera of the amount of work we do per hour. I don't even know how our bodies are still together. I mean, the work is a lot of work. And as a travel nurse, unfortunately, sometimes it comes with more challenges when you're working. And so you need to know your worth. So for me to connect with my new recruiter, because I had a feeling she was new, I tried to ask her how long she's been in the field, because my first travel experience, I had an experienced recruiter. So I didn't have to worry about certain things that I would say or questions. This recruiter, she was kind of like, let me ask my manager. You got some really good questions. Obviously, I'm an experienced traveler, so I know what to ask for. And so what I did to connect us, because I was trying to build rapport with my recruiter, was to give her my gist of my travel life and my experiences and my challenges that I found when I was working full-time as a travel nurse, because I'm one that will dedicate full-time as a travel nurse. I'm not the one that likes to work between facilities. Okay, I'm working over here full-time, then PRN, I'm working over here. It will be a lot to try to work both jobs, especially in COVID time, because you already know your regular job. Oh my God, so many patients per one nurse. And then you coming on to a challenge as working as a travel nurse. You might get the higher acuity patient assignments, things like that. So you're going to be wearing yourself out before you can even spend the money you make. So my best advice is to negotiate a salary that fits all your needs. I mean, your shopping needs, your bills, your kids. Pay off something. I always set goals with the money that I'm getting ready to make from my travel world. And I mean, I say, hey, I'm going to fix this in my house. I just got here and there's things that we need to address. Lawn service, as an example, we have a big lot, lots of little trees, beautiful trees, but they dropping damn leaves everywhere. So guess what? I'm about to pay somebody to get these leaves up because we've been out there breaking our backs getting these leaves up. Even though we do it as a family, that's something I wanted to add into my budget this year. You know your budget, so stick to it. So when I'm talking to my recruiter, I'm saying, hey, I know you want me to do a contract with this facility. I would love to work with them full time and support the team. But these are my conditions. And I do not change my tone. I say the same thing every time, ever since I met my recruiter. From day one, she asked me to do a contract. I kept saying no. These are my conditions. These are my conditions. And I had a few. I didn't overwhelm her with a whole bunch of things that is non-realistic. And because you don't want your contract rejected. So I had my vacation days, my hourly rate that I wanted to make that will put me well over 6 figures. Yes, your girl now will be making 6 figures, but I'm going to show you how I did it. I put exactly what I want, my rate, my vacation days, my guaranteed hours. Make sure they have in there how much per week you can be dropped from, like the hospital dropping you, say, hey, we have low census, we don't need you today. And mine's is one shift per every 2 weeks, which is really good because that tells me they need people. They're not really dropping people left and right. And that is guaranteed 36 hours. So my 36 hours is guaranteed. And I said, I want to keep my 36 hours full time. I can't be slacking right now. We have holidays coming up. We need to work. So those things are in there. Also, any training or anything that you had to pay for out of pocket to meet the criteria for travel nursing to get started, it should be at the bottom about them reimbursing you back. So for instance, I had to take a ACLS class, which I was already NIH stroke certified before I left my last job. And unfortunately, my last job was delaying us getting our ACLS. And look at that. God opened a door, and that's the first thing I needed in order to work at this hospital was they require on their nurses to have the ACLS. I went ahead and paid out of pocket $300 and something for this exam. It was a 2-day class. I passed it on the second day. Thank God. Oh my gosh. Passed it, paid for it, and made sure those receipts were in my email and emailed it to my recruiter. And so it will be on my first check. So things like that need to be on your contract. On your contract. You need to discuss things as far as if you walk into the facility and you're not feeling the facility and it's not safe and they're doing crazy things. To if you cancel your contract, the consequences, or if the hospital cancels your contract, because say you did something crazy or made a mistake or something, they can cancel it. So always keep in mind, if a contract gets canceled, make sure you know those things. Make sure you have a plan in place. Just remember, as a travel nurse, you're not out of work. You do not work for these hospitals where you feel like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me next? Travel nursing has tons of jobs, tons of it. It just depends. You have to be proactive on what you want to do, where you want to work. If you're comfortable working in different units and different specialty areas, this is your chance as a nurse. So go ahead and explore. As an LPN, I was able to work in pediatrics as well, which I love kids. So I had that great training and great experience. And that was the only travel job that I had that had the longest orientation. And I mean the longest. And I learned a new system, Sigma. They were on Sigma. So I learned all those things. And I was able to put that on my resume. I worked in acute care. I worked on a hospital unit where they had A-lines. And I mean, I did a lot as an LPN travel nurse. I worked in mental health. And so as an RN, I plan to do the same. But as you know, as an RN, you do so much more than when I was an LPN. I all I had to do was literally do my task. I felt like do my task and then leave. Like it wasn't no like I assess, of course, and things like that, but it wasn't like, I don't know how to put it, but like how RN work is. Like RN is just a lot of documentation. So that's how I feel. Like it's way more documentation, way more responsibilities. Just be careful when you're traveling. You don't want to do a job that you're not comfortable with doing and trying to make this money and make a mistake. Always travel safe. That's the number one thing. So when negotiating, even though your recruiter might come to you and say, hey, John, we would love to have you as a contract because that's how they make their money. That's how your recruiter makes their money. Hey, we would love to put you on contract and da da da. Say, hey, the same tone. If you want me to go on contract, this is my conditions and this is my rate. I said that so much to the point where my own recruiter called me and was like, I know you said you won't take a contract unless you have this rate and you have these conditions. Let's just type it up on there. She just kind of gave up on saying the same thing because she knew I was not going to budget. And I'm very, very patient with dealing with deals. So at that moment, I was still considered PRN, 1 day a week type of deal, a minimum. And my husband and I both agreed that a contract was okay. Our kids are already in school, so I really don't need as much flexibility as I did back then. So she said it, and then she was like, okay, it's a lot you put on there, but let's set it. I said, just submit it. When she submitted, I found out yesterday that everything, even my conditions, was the company agreed to my contract and was approved. And I was like, not shocked, because again, with travel nursing, it's all about negotiation. If you ever meet a recruiter and they say, I don't know what you're talking about. The first contract that she showed me had nothing in it but the rate and 36 hours. Also, I forget to mention it had my holiday pay and my overtime. So those two things also you want to make sure is on your contract is your holiday pay and your overtime. You can ask for overtime bonus. I asked for a bonus for after the contract was actually completed. And what happens if I extend my contract and I ask for like an extension bonus as well? You just never know, but these are the things, extra bonuses that you can mention. So every time you complete your contract, you can get like $2,000 extra or something like that because you completed a contract. And that's how the company makes their money. So I also told my recruiter that, you work for me. You want your nurses to be happy. You want to protect them. And I also gave her a visual or like something where she can think about that when I told her, so she can make sure I'm happy. And I just told her my experience as a traveler, told her what my last job, what happened to me. And just, she was just like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I see why you're saying what you're saying. And so from this point forward, we had no going back and forth. It was a done deal. She was like, everybody agreed to everything, which is amazing. And now, if you look at my contract, it is full with information in it. Conditions, holiday pay, this time, this, that. My hours is in there. All those details when you're signing something is very important. Because when you now agree to this contract, you created it. And it wasn't like pre-done or somebody else used this sample as a contract, like the bare minimum. Always get what you're worth. So even if they're starting you out with like $100 an hour and you're like, and this is just an example, and you're like, I want 109. That is my rate. Don't move from 109. Don't let the recruiter influence you and go, hey, if you do this, you'll get this. Stick to the 109. Always remember your base pay is more important than the little bonuses and the little other things, because that is what you're going to be getting 8 hour. Also, that is taxable. So always make sure your organization is taking out their taxes. You do not want to be getting all that money. Like, especially me, I don't want all that money and my taxes is not taking out. I will be like, okay, send it back to the IRS, because first of all, I don't like trouble and I don't want to owe anything. My goal is to retire early. So I'm working on that. Also, when you do a full-time contract travel nurse, they have full-time benefits. There's companies that is actually national and international. So even if you are like me, an army wife, you can still move and still keep your job. So like I finally got with a national organization. So now if my husband had orders, I'm good to go to move with my husband. So those are just some things to keep in mind. I hope this video was super easy to understand how to negotiate. It is science to it. It is an art. Stay persistent and stay patient. Don't let the numbers get to you and you just accept like, oh my God, that's like a $50 difference from what I was making at the hospital. We know it's going to be a lot of money, but know your number. Know your number. And don't be outrageous with it where you're like, yeah, I want $200 an hour. No, be realistic. So I stayed underneath 100, but where it seems realistic because there are some travel assignments that are $100 an hour, but the more you make, the more taxes come out. Just keep that in mind. I lowered mine somewhat. Not going to tell you exactly what it was, but I'm still above the 60 and 70 range. So in order to do that, you need to stay stern. You need to say no, no thank you. These are my conditions. And keep it simple. I had a lot of conditions because I don't like to feel like I have to commit to something. And if it's really not going to benefit me, it's going to benefit the company. No, I'm not doing it. If you're going to commit, they need to commit to you also. And if you're going to be working all these hours and working hard, you need to make sure you have some type of vacation in there. Even if you're not a big traveler and maybe you like to shop or visit parents or visit your family, take some time off and make sure it's in your contract. So whoever's scheduling you, even if they put you down and you don't show up, it's not abandonment. It's nothing crazy. It's in writing. So like my anniversary, I requested like 9 days. Even if I only go somewhere for 4 days and just go see my family for the rest of those days that I'm off. It's your vacation days, and there's nothing wrong with accents. So even though my recruiter kept saying, I don't know if they're going to approve all these vacation days. I don't know if they're going to approve your rate. When she said she was talking as if it was the hospital approving this. No, it's the company that approves their contract. And the hospital has to see it and agree to it. But you're mainly doing that contract between you and your company. So always keep in mind that even if somebody tells you, no, that sounds crazy. Oh, that rate sounds, no, it don't. And it's so funny when my recruiter called me and told me everything was accepted, she even got my rate raised even more after I was transparent with her and told her my experiences. So be transparent when you're talking to your recruiter. So if they're a new recruiter, don't make them feel like they're dumb or something like, oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Give me somebody else. Teach them how to, how to put a contract together. Teach them, show them your experience. Say, hey, I've been a travel nurse for 8 years and my experiences has been. And it's so important that my recruiter keeps my license safe. And it's important that the company cares enough to want to see the value that I'm bringing to the team. And, be a little bit transparent so they have an idea of why, you may have some of these conditions. You have to back up what you say. You just can't throw something out there and not back it up. So back it up with what you're saying. Me, I always bring up my experiences because that's a big part of my value is my experiences and along with my skills. Since I was able to work the step down and finish my orientation before I left my hospital, that is on my resume. All those med-surg floors I work, that is all on my resume. And that's what sold the job for the managers at the other hospital was like, oh my God. Like I heard them talking about me in the back in the phone and they was very excited. They were like, whoa, we can really utilize her full time. Not a problem. Would love to help the team. Please meet my conditions. So now that my conditions is met, I will keep you guys posted on my first check, how my budgeting is going, and just continue to help y'all in this travel life. The money is real. So for those who like husbands or maybe boyfriends or your partner who's like, I don't know, you getting all this, it's real. You get all the money, but please make sure your taxes is coming out so you don't have to calculate it yourself. I know nurses that was getting like $10,000 a week and the taxes was not taken out. And if you don't need all that money, negotiate it where bring your rates down some where it's realistic. So it's not you don't have a hard time, getting your stuff approved. And so that way you can get that job quicker. You still have to the company still sends your resume off to the job that you want to do as a travel nurse, and they still have to approve it. So if you're a new nurse, get some experience first before you start coming to the travel world. It is a totally different world. You are independent. You have to be proactive. You have to keep up with your money, keep up with the hours you want to work. You have to stay on top of your own stuff. No one is going to do everything for you. Like if you work at a hospital, you have to keep up with your own training. I had to do so much training before I even start. I'm supposed to start this week. Oh my God, I had to do ACLS. Turn around, I had like 20 educational training videos, CBTs, online for this hospital. I had to also do 3 to 4 exams for my travel company. Yes, I had to do all those things before I could start thinking about making any of this money, and passed every last single test. I had I think 2 pharmacology tests. I had an LTAC test, a med search test, and things like that, like random drugs, math. Like, yes, everything was on there but the kitchen sink. These travel companies, if it's a good one, they want to see if you are going to be competent enough to travel as an RN, especially as an RN. So please keep that in mind, that you're not just going to come into a travel job and it's going to be one. In some jobs is 1, 2, 3. If it's not like a real organized job and you just maybe doing 1 or 2 jobs for them. But if you plan on staying with them as a full-time employee, these are some of the things you're going to have to do before you can even get started. So this is your inspirational nurse. I hope I was super, super helpful. I hope you can negotiate like a pro now. And I'll see you guys on the next one.